What did Victor Oladipo do on the court to make such huge strides? How does an NBA trainer approach working with pros? Is it important to vary your basketball training regimen? The only question left is, say it with me, you win. Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown Podcast. Today I am pleased to bring on friend of the breakdown, since you've been on before, Micah Lancaster, who is an NBA trainer and a basketball trainer overall. And how else would you like me to describe you, Micah?
I think that, I call myself a skill enhancement trainer. It's a little bit different of an approach of basketball training. So I think that's how I would define myself, as a basketball skill enhancement trainer.
Okay, well, that sounds great. And it's safe to say that you've worked with a number of NBA players, right?
Yeah, over the years, probably have worked with, somewhere between 25 and 30. Could be more. But yeah, just right around there.
Okay. Well, the reason why I wanted to talk to you today was we just did a nice breakdown on Victor Oladipo's 47-point explosion for the Indiana Pacers, and also the surprise of the Pacers overall, that they're winning and he's leading them. So I know that you worked with him last summer. And I thought it'd be a great idea to sit down with you and just have a discussion about what were the things that you decided to sit down and attack and led to what is probably putting him in the lead for the Most Improved Player award.
Yeah, Victor was extremely fun to work with this summer. And actually, one thing I would like to just start off with is whenever we have these types of conversations, I never want to ever seem like I'm taking any credit for a player's success. So I always want to say that right away. Victor is doing amazing things, and I don't want to make it seem at all like I'm stepping in and personally taking credit for any of that. One thing that was really special about Victor, though, when he contacted me in, I believe it was May, is he didn't want to be a role player. And so his approach was, I want to train for a new opportunity. I want to train to become, step out of this box that he was kind of being placed in. And so he wanted to really just open everything up, and didn't want to approach it with any limitations.
Okay, well that's a great thing to hear. Now, when he said that, was that after he was traded to Indiana or while he was still with OKC?
No, we started working out when he was still expecting to be in OKC. He was a little bit of a spectator there in terms of what he would, what he's doing now, and just the way, the style of play, of Russ out there. He couldn't quite step into the type of player that I think he wanted to be. But that was kind of the approach that we were going to be taking is, okay, we're going to at least equip you to be ready to take on a bigger role and hopefully be able to take more responsibility in OKC and just open everything up there.
That's interesting. Well, how much preparation do you do? Like when you're going to work with Victor Oladipo in the summer and it's, a month or two before, like what are you doing to prepare that and get ready to know his game? I'm very different. If I go back, what skill enhancement training is, I probably have to just kind of give you a background. So in my opinion, there's really two types of training. There's game enhancement, which is, more about managing a player's roles, making sure they get so many shots from that spot, or making sure they come off a certain amount of screen rolls or pin downs, whatever the role, that player might have. It's very team-oriented and role-oriented, and it's the most common form of training. I consider myself a skill enhancement trainer, and really we don't focus at all on any of that. So a lot of people, ask, like, what'd you do to prepare? Actually, talking with Vic before, he originally said, hey, are you going to watch some film and get ready for this? And actually, I said, no, not at all. I didn't want to watch any, because I didn't want to have any biases. I was a little familiar with his game because obviously I've seen him, but I didn't want to know him too well, because my role, in my opinion, was to be unbiased about who he is, about what we can become, and just focus on as many skills and traits as possible so he could truly open up his game. So I didn't really do any preparation. I just made a big, giant list of everything that I wanted to be able to give to him, just like I would any player.
Okay, that is interesting and definitely unique. And I should preface this as throwing it out there that, Micah, you are the guy like that has the props, right? Like you're the sort of the prop guy, uses the cones and uses all these other things. And I find it funny because sometimes people will say, oh, that's not game-like and whatever. And my take on that has always been, whatever works, man. Like, if you get a guy that ball handle better because he's wearing gloves, then great. Like, let him use gloves. I don't know, but are those the kind of things you were using this summer with Vic?
Oh, yeah. I would never, ever, ever use the word props. That's the kind of word that people use when they don't understand it. But I get what you mean. I mean, we use training tools. A training tool is a method that's designed to simulate something that's very difficult to simulate. So one of the examples would be, okay, how does a player really feel that he's getting his inside shoulder down as low as he wants it to be? Some people are really good at just doing it on their own with nothing. But if they have a hard time feeling that and you have them go down and grab a rip cone off of the floor, now they know for sure that their inside shoulder was exactly as low as it needed to be. So a training tool is a simulation. It's an artificial way to help players feel the real thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I think almost everything we did, because we were trying to increase his overall athletic traits and characteristics, almost everything we did was using training tools to simulate something, whether or not it's finishing simulations or body position simulations or athletic simulations. Everything was using a tool. I would say about 75% of what we did.
Okay, and by the way, a great explanation for it. And I really feel like it's important because, again, you get a lot of guys out here who are traditionalists or whatever they would do, and they just simply won't even take 30 seconds to think about, those things. There's improvement by Victor Oladipo across the entire board. I don't think there's anything you can look at where he hasn't improved, and usually significantly in every category. Let's start off with a thing that I do a lot of focus on, which is shooting. Last year, he shot a career-high 36.1% from three on 5 a game, which was, about average. This year, he's shooting over 6 a game, and he's at 44%. Please, give us some insight into what you guys did together to help him find more accuracy.
All right, well, I'm going to kind of give you a deep answer. And he's shooting the ball extremely well. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of what we did and some of what he did with David Alexander and for his body and a bunch of other stuff. I mean, he's just in great shape, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But I think the traditional way, if we're talking about traditionalists, is usually people try to look for, okay, here's one thing you can do to get this one result. And I think that's just kind of an outdated transactional look at basketball training. So, kind of in a roundabout way, if you can identify 30 to 40 different traits or skills that you want to be able to give a player, and they get good at those 30 or 40 things, it lends itself into making that one thing better. And so when it comes to shooting, what we wanted to focus on was his feet, making sure that he was comfortable, not as stagnant as he was before, that he had more of a rhythm off of the floor, that his feet were leaving the ground quicker. I wanted to really help him connect his core to his shot and really improve the timing of his release. And there's a lot of different ways that we went about doing that. It's hard to say this is the one thing that did it, because it wasn't one thing. It was an accumulation of a lot of different approaches, and really him just getting an overall comfort and rhythm to his shot. If I could point at probably the one thing that we talked about the most that I think that he's really just done a lot better is just his overall timing. We always teach that by the time you get the ball to your lift point, which would be, the area typically around a guy's face or above their head or whatever it might be that the ball goes to before they get through to their release. That's what we call their lift point. So by the time that a player gets to their lift point, we typically want to see their legs reach an extended state. We don't want them in their lift point while their knees are still bent, because it interrupts and disturbs the overall flow of their shot. And so there was times, I think, in the past when he would find himself shooting in that type of timing. And so we really wanted to just speed up the overall process of the timing and make sure that we were consistent with that timing, and it really helped, I think, engage his legs and his core into his shot for a little bit better range.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried online dating? Chances are you've run into lazy text messages, dead-end conversations, and random matches that don't turn into dates. Of course, their picture says 1,000 words, but what if those words aren't compatible with you? With all the crazy dating websites out there, how do you choose one that really works for you? The answer is eHarmony. I just went to a wedding between two people that met on eHarmony, and it was an incredible bastion of love and respect and a strong foundation built on a shared compatibility that eHarmony helped them find. They use years and years of science, data, and psychological research to send you the right matches. This isn't a shallow hookup site, my friends. This is a site that has made over 1 million couples very happy, and they can help you too. Right now, you can get a free month with eHarmony when you sign up for a 3-month subscription. Just enter my code COACH at checkout. So stop waiting and start your journey to a satisfying, meaningful relationship. It can be fun to play around with online dating apps, but when you're ready to fall in love with someone and have a meaningful relationship, there's one app that's built to bring you real love, eHarmony. Come see how eHarmony can change your life. Go to eHarmony.com and get started. Enter my code COACH at checkout. I'm really glad that you talked about rhythm, because I think that that's the most important thing than anything when you're talking about shooting. That's what you need. Like I've gotten away from elbow placement and wrist bend, all these different things mechanically, because I discovered that obviously everyone's different, but it's the rhythm, which I also think that, let me see what you think about this. People always talk about confidence, right? And they talk about, you got to have confidence to shoot. And I think you can fake confidence. That doesn't really mean anything to me. I think that what they're really saying is rhythm. I think that rhythm equals confidence when you're talking about a shot. What do you think about that?
No, I think people have a hard time explaining, what confidence is. Like you said, there's if a person hesitates or pauses during a shot, that's a lack of rhythm, and it's a lack of comfort. I always talk about comfort, and I think we're saying the same thing in a different way. If I took the 10 best shooters in the world and I put them over on the left, and I took 10 really bad shooters and put them over to the right, I could ask the top 10 shooters a lot of different things, and they disagree on elbow placement and all this other different stuff, but they'd all say they're comfortable. The people on the right would also have the same disagreements about how to shoot, but they would probably say they lack comfort in some way. And so we really just want to make sure that a player is fully comfortable. Okay, so if you're not fully comfortable with where your elbow is, then that's when we need to find what's going to be comfortable for you. If you're not comfortable with how you're holding the ball, we got to make sure you're comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable with your jump, then we need to get comfortable with it. So it's really searching for comfort. And I think that's the best way to describe, I think, what I like about seeing Vic now is he's just so comfortable. There's no doubts or hesitations because he is in a rhythm. And so there's nothing that feels off.
Sure.
And that's when you can really, I think, shoot more consistently.
Okay, so when you talked about the rhythm and timing of Victor's shot, back in the day when we would teach shooting, it would almost be like a lever. As your arms would go up, your knees would bend down. And you could get that freeze frame that you're talking about where the ball is in your set point, or I forgot what you call it, what point?
Yeah, lift point.
The lift point, yep. While your knees are completely bent at the bottom of the bend, right? Although now what we know is you want to do that bend earlier so that everything's on the way up. So I think that's what you're talking about. Did you see that? Was that a consistent issue where he was bending his knees, I guess, sort of too early in the process, and that was interrupting the rhythm?
Yeah, I think that it just wasn't consistent, and it's funny. Even NBA players, most of what they've been taught growing up was always, okay, where's your elbow? Do you have a gap where you can stick a finger underneath between the ball and the palm? Which it's a complete myth. No one actually has that anyway.
Thank you.
And so, but even if a player doesn't have that mythical gap, they usually will still tell you that they do because they've been taught it.
Right.
And so, no one really teaches players timing. When do your legs extend? When do you move the ball? And so, timing, I think, is the most important issue of shooting that no one ever teaches. And so, just by improving the player's timing, you can make a world of difference, and you don't usually have to tinker with their form. I don't think Vic really changed his shot. He just increased the efficiency of his timing. It improved his range. I think one thing that we really did that's possibly, giving him a little bit more of an advantage as well is we just shot the ball in as many different ways as possible, and many different footworks as possible. So footwork is never an interference to a shot.
Okay.
A lot of times people try to do perfect reps, try to get your feet perfect every time. Some people say you should have 10 toes to the basket. Other people say you should turn. I say you should have everything. I want you to be so good with your feet that your feet can do anything you want them to do, and you can still shoot the ball the same. So we do a lot of imperfect shooting. Can you be comfortable shooting the ball imperfectly? And I think that's more game-like. The game is imperfect.
By the way, there are so many great quotes in this. I can't wait to put them up on Twitter as I link to this podcast because they're great. If you watch Kyrie, by the way, do that. His pregame routine is all about every way of twisting your feet to shoot a three you can imagine. And I have to imagine that's probably the same kind of thing you were doing, right? Is having your feet in the weirdest positions and your body turned as you can find the alignment as quickly as you can.
Yeah, you want them to be able to be. You might have done a spin move, and your feet aren't right where you normally would have done it, but you still are in a moment where you need to shoot the ball. A lot of players will pass up those shots because they always do perfect reps. In many ways, it's not about your ability to make shots as much as your ability to feel comfortable taking shots. And so if you can get to a spot on the floor you want to be, it shouldn't matter if everything turned out exactly as you want it to be. If you've worked on imperfect reps, you'll still be able to shoot it and feel great shooting it. So, so it's really about just mixing it up as much as possible when it comes to shooting. I think for guys like this that they're just comfortable in anything. Like I said, the key word always goes back to comfort.
We've reached a time of the show where when we're talking about comfort, we got to talk about his time in OKC a little bit. Because when I did the video, of course, half the comments are like, yeah, we love you from Indiana and all that kind of stuff. This is great to see the development. And the other half, obviously, the elephant in the room is that, they want to basically shit on Russell Westbrook and say that it was his fault that Victor Oladipo couldn't get to where he was or is holding him back. And I'm wondering if you can give us insight, having worked with Victor and probably talked to him about it a little bit. Who is right in this argument?
Well, first off, I think it's a shame that people want to blame Russ for that specific reason, and I also think it's a shame just because it discredits Vic for the work he did this offseason. I think we live in a society that wants to think people are born this way. They want to find the naturals, the people who would have made it no matter what happened. And most of the time around these guys, when you call them naturals, it really pisses them off. Because you're just discrediting everything they've worked for. If you look at what Vic did with DBC this summer and how he changed his body with David Alexander in Miami, that's a lot of work. If you look at the type of stuff that we did this summer and all the weeks that we spent with him, that's a lot of work. And so, and Vic worked differently this summer and harder than I think he ever has. And so I think it's a shame to point it all at Russ. Would he have had the type of freedom in OKC to do what he's doing now if he was still there? No, I mean, he wouldn't have had the same results. But our goal initially while we were in OKC was to get him this same skill sets and this same comfort level where he could have opened it up more and maybe he would have been trusted to do more in their system. And so it's hard to look back at it and really predict what would have happened. But, let's not take away from the work he put in and how much he dedicated himself to his body this summer.
It's that time of the year again, where you have to buy your family and friends gifts. And I know how impossible it could feel to find the right present, especially if you're looking for something both thoughtful and practical. Well, look no further, because Harry's Razors offers precisely what you're looking for this holiday season. Over 3 million guys have switched to Harry's, primarily because of their high-quality precision blades, but also because they come in different colors, custom gift sets that fit specific needs, and a personal engraving option. This holiday, Harry's is offering custom and limited edition shaving sets that make perfect gifts. Their gift sets were built with your guy in mind, so you'll know he'll love them. Sets come with German-engineered 5-blade cartridges that provide a close, comfortable shave, foaming shave gel that smells amazing, special limited edition winter chrome and emerald green handles, and personalize it with some engraving. No matter what you're looking for, Harry's has you covered. Sets come ready to gift in beautifully designed gift boxes. Gift sets start at just $10. They make great stocking stuffers, and even get something for yourself with Harry's. As a special offer for fans, we partner with Harry's to give you $5 off your order when you go to harrys.com/coachnick. This offer is only available for the holidays. So this holiday, give Harry's and give handsome. Shipping cutoffs end this week, so act now to get your gifts delivered in time. To get a limited edition holiday shave set while supplies last, go to harrys.com/coachnick right now. That's harrys.com/coachnick. And I also think the key is, he did have a good year, right? He averaged 16 a game. He shot, 36% from three, which was fine. I know he didn't have a great playoff series, but he did well. And I think that the difference now, if you look at it, he took 14 shots a game last year, and he's taking 18 now. So that he probably doesn't ever get a bump like that playing in OKC. Regardless, that's just a fact, right? He's just not going to get any more shots than he was probably getting. So the scoring output, right, just probably wouldn't have happened necessarily. Now, I guess in theory, what you could argue is that he could have been more efficient in those shots. Instead of 44% field goal, maybe getting up to 48 where he is now, but still not getting to where he's scoring. So I think that's one thing I want to say in defense of Russ, is just the way it's structured there. But do you think that there was any issue because of that the comfort was going to be impossible to achieve in that setting?
No, impossible to achieve in doing what he's doing now, obviously. He wouldn't have been able to do what he's doing now in that system with Russ. When you're playing with a ball-dominant player, you have to do a lot more standing around and waiting. And he was actually, I think, accused, if I look back in the media during the playoffs, of being someone who just sat back and watched Russ work. That never was really the case. It's just kind of what you have to do when you're waiting for your opportunity to catch and do something with it. So it can be hard to get comfortable when you're playing with someone who has the ball in their hands that much and that often. I think he broke records in usage rates and all that type of stuff. So, that can definitely be a hard thing to get over and just, find that comfort level. But I do think that we would have seen a greater output and a much different version of Vic with OKC this year if he had gotten the chance at that location. But I'm certainly very happy for him that he got to go back to Indiana. Such a perfect fit for him, obviously where he played college ball and always felt like home to him. And then he got the keys to the car. And you couldn't have picked a better summer for him to be able to be handed those keys. A better year after the summer for him to be able to get those keys, because he was prepared and he was ready.
Was there anything in particular that you started working on with him in the summer that he just struggled with mightily and took him a lot longer than anything else to develop?
With our type of training and our style of training, there's a lot of those, because what we try to do is we're probing for weaknesses. And so that's what I always tell a guy when we work out. We're going to find out how bad at basketball you are today. Same thing we would do with an NBA player is exactly what we would do with the kid. We're going to find a weakness. We're going to live in that weakness, and then we're going to figure out a way to overcome it. And so, yeah, there was a lot of them, things that we did footwork-wise that took him a while to get. There was get low, the type of low that we were training him to do that was uncomfortable for him, being able to stop, and being one thing that we did that took him a little bit of time was being able to do a drag stop, which is if I'm driving right, I'm going to plant my right foot, letting my left foot drag behind me, and we want your knee to get towards the floor. So we'll put a medicine ball on the floor, and we want your left knee to touch the medicine ball, so you know that you're getting to that type of low that we want you to in order to stop. Those types of things were difficult for him. He would have to stutter his feet in order to slow down before he could stop, and we wanted an immediate full speed, 100-0 stop. And so there's a list of things that we could go through that took him some time to get. But what the awesome thing about Vic is he just works so hard and is so humble through that process that he'll push through that 30 minutes and then it will click and he'll have it. Where a lot of guys have too much ego for that. All right, I'm struggling with this. I'm looking bad. Maybe I don't really need this in my game. Let's move on. Where Vic doesn't have any of that. So every day we try to confront a new weakness. What's so amazing about him and his character is that he loved finding a new one and just went at it till he got it. And so that was an everyday thing, and he was never in a bad mood doing it, which was a pretty cool thing. Made him an awesome person to work with.
What's interesting about that description of the footwork you were working with him on is I just released, this is like, I'm just throwing out unadulterated shout outs for my videos, but I just did a video on the step back, who's got the nastiest step back in the NBA, and we did Kemba and Kyrie. And what I showed before I even talking to you is how they do that. I called it a hockey stop, right? Where you slam your first foot is forward and you're like dragging the left foot behind you, almost like you're screeching on the ice. Should we expect to see some serious nasty step backs from Victor Oladipo going forward?
Yeah, and sometime you and I should talk about terminology, because some of the things you're calling step backs, we would call different things. I think it would be a really cool study to actually talk about all the different footworks that there actually are that all get kind of thrown into one bucket. And so, there's a lot of different styles and types. So one thing that we try to do a lot is we name every different set of footwork so we have a language for basketball skill development. So I'd love to do that with you sometime as a sidetrack.
For sure.
But I think you're going to see a lot of Vic this season, of his ability to create space, for how quickly he can stop. And then from that stop, he can create immediate reaction of creating further space from it. So if you can stop, the other player does it, you've already created separation. But if you can stop and they run past and then you create further space, now you have obviously maximum separation. And so, I think you're going to see a lot of as the season goes on, of him being more and more comfortable using all the footwork that he has to open up separation for himself and create a lot more opportunities.
So do you think this is the mirage, what the Pacers are doing right now and what Victor is doing, or is they're going to sustain this and make the playoffs and be the biggest surprise of the NBA this year?
I love the way they're playing right now. I think if Miles didn't get hurt and then have to come back in, because that kind of seemed to throw off their chemistry a little bit for maybe a 4 or 5 game stretch as they kind of redid their rotation. Mm-hmm. I think they would be, much, much better in the standings right now even. I mean, they just kind of, if you look at that, that's really what happened. They started off the season really strong. I don't know if he started. No, he didn't start the season with them, right? They inserted him back in.
Well, he missed games 2 through 8.
Yes, and so in that time frame, they were playing great.
Yeah.
And then when he was inserted back into, they had to refine themselves, and they went through a little bit of a losing streak.
Yeah.
I don't think that losing streak ever would have happened. Now they're better with him, obviously, in the lineup, but their chemistry had to kind of refine. I think we're going to see this team do a lot this season because their chemistry is so good, and I think we're only seeing the beginning of Vic. From the start of this year. My job was going around telling everyone that Victor is going to be an all-star this year because I could see it. I mean, he was just getting that good. And so a lot of people doubted that statement. And I think the all-star Vic is someone we're going to get used to. I think he's just going to keep growing because he's just that type of person. And he's just kind of reaching his ability to really use his athleticism the way he can and really tighten everything up. It's going to be fun to watch.
Sure. And without question, All-Star, I mentioned that the other day on Twitter, also in the context of another All-Star leaving OKC. which could be another discussion that maybe you or somebody and I can have about what that means with Presti and the culture there. But nonetheless, Mike, I can't thank you enough for coming on and breaking this stuff down. I mean, I know we focus on Victor Oladipo, but there's no question that what you're talking about is the kind of stuff that every player deals with or needs to work on or has to master. And so I love the fascinating stuff that you're talking about. I don't think we talk about it enough.
Yeah, and if I was to close on it, on one thing, I don't know if this is our closing time, but I think players need to understand that there are those two different types of training. And I think the shame is if someone, let's say someone only trains my way, the skill enhancement way, they're going to be missing the types of shots and reps and the other things that they need to have in their game. If they only do the game enhancement training, when the types of stuff that they do with their coaches and work on their roles and their system, then they're going to be missing the key pieces of their skills. So when players do both, and they really focus on both sides of the spectrum there, that's when we see a lot of great results. If coaches could stop fighting about what is the right and the wrong way to train, and players could actually just do both ways, we'd see such a better game. And so that's my goal is getting people on the same page, understanding, look, when you see someone using training tools, it's not the only way to train, it's a way to train, and you can do that along with the puristic, simplistic way of getting your reps. In fact, I would suggest people do both of them to get the best results.
For sure. It's funny, really quickly we talk about, even like people doing yoga a lot now. And a lot of what yoga is talking about is keeping your heart open, right? And having your shoulder blades on your back and having good posture, which also leads to good defensive playing as well. But I feel like any typical coach, when they fire up like a video of another coach's, insights into the game, they already come at it looking out of the side of their eye a little bit, like, what does this guy know that I don't know already? And I think that's what's a little bit frustrating. And it might be just a normal reaction. I'm a coach. I know what I'm talking about. What's this guy going to have to offer me? And I almost feel like that's the hurdle that we need to kind of get over in the beginning, because I can't get enough. I love looking at anybody or talking to anybody's stuff to hear about something that might be provocative. After the fact, maybe I'm like, I don't like that so much, or I like that. But in the beginning, I think that there's this natural tendency, and it might just be like human nature, to simply not trust what they're seeing if they perceive themselves as being an expert in that field too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a broad field. I always say it this way. At the risk of sounding arrogant, because it's not what this is, it's just an example. If you take Coach K, and I was going to have a debate with Coach K on the X's and O's of basketball, he would wipe the floor with me. That's not the world that I live in. At the same time, though, if I could go on a debate with Coach K on skill enhancement training and developing players, I would have the same effect on my side. So, I mean, we don't have to be experts of everything in order to be really good at what you specifically do. I think there's just a lot of people who think that everyone needs to wear all the hats. There's nothing wrong with being just great at what you do and having other people that do the other jobs. And so that's what I think, have to understand I think a lot of players in different communities look to coaches to develop them. And a coach is going to be really good at teaching you how to play, but not necessarily giving you the skills needed to do those things. And so there just needs to be we need to open up our minds a little bit, stop feeling like everyone's a threat, and letting more people contribute to players. If you look at Vic, and there is an article that just came out, Kevin O'Connor with The Ringer just wrote one and talked about, actually your timing is great, it just came out today. I mean, look at Vic didn't just work with us at Impossible. He also worked with David Alexander, and he worked with another training organization as well. That's good.
Right.
And so there's more than one person involved in that. There's more than one voice. And Vic can pick and choose what he likes to use and what he doesn't.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to just come out here and pick and choose that you coming on the show was a great idea. And thanks so much for breaking this down for us. You want to give a one sentence or two sentence description of I'm Possible and what's going on over there?
Yeah. I'm Possible Training is a trainer certification organization. We have over 300 certified trainers at I'm Possible. And we're also a trainer university. So I'm based at our world headquarters here in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I'm from. I just moved back here last year. And so what I do is, players travel from around the world for training, stay in our guest house and go through anything from a weekend of training to a month of training. And then also trainers traveling from different parts of the world to learn our system and to continue learning, the skill development industry. So, Impossible Training is a basketball educational system for trainers and players. Of course, we train camps and we do all that type of stuff too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Micah. It was really insightful, really great stuff. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Micah?
I'm in.